Carrie Taylor. Carrie is the Member Services Manager for Safe Electricity. So Carrie, welcome, and I will turn it over to you.
All right, well, thank you, Erin. Welcome everyone to today's Everyday Environment webinar. Thanks for taking some time out of your day to focus on safety education and learn how you can be prepared for storms that come your way.
Let me give you a few questions to think about as we go through today's presentation. Sorry, I want to make sure you can still hear me okay. Okay. In late June, much of central Illinois had very damaging storms that hit very quickly. Were you ready for them? Did you have an emergency kit prepared? Did you have a safety plan in place for you and your family to follow? Did you use your generator properly? Did you rush outside after the storm to assess the damage? Did you follow safe chainsaw safety after the storm during your cleanup? Did you have your pets and your children go outside after the storm and allow them to play in puddles? All of these things could have posed serious injury or worse. Let's dive in and learn how you can be prepared and safe before, during, and after the next storm. Let me start by sharing just a little bit about the Safe Electricity Program. Safe Electricity is a nationally recognized award-winning multimedia public awareness program. We have more than 500 utility members across the country, and we provide information such as safety resources, videos, infographics, social media images, and text posts, youth resources, videos, and infographics, like I said, everything in between. And those resources help to complement the safety education that our utilities and educators have been using for 20 years. We recently created a storm safety series video, and today and during this webinar, I'm going to show you a few of those videos as we go through and help you learn a little bit more about how to be safe during, before, and after a storm. And just a side note, the resources that Safe Electricity creates, they are vetted by a team of professionals. So our utility members can use those resources in their communication plans to prevent injury and save lives. National Preparedness Month is an observance each September to raise awareness about the importance of preparing for disasters and emergencies that could happen at any time. You can learn more about it at ready.gov/September, which is the website listed on the screen. Excuse me. And here are 4 steps that we're going to talk about just to keep in mind for preparedness. Step number 1, learn your risks and responses and be informed. You can receive life-saving important alerts no matter where you are, home, school, work, etc. There's wireless emergency alerts. There's the NOAA weather radio. Social media can share some weather and safety information, and that can be relayed through there. However, please remember, it is not an official means for receiving important life-saving information. Know which natural disasters can occur in your area and how to prepare and stay safe. Remember to plan for things such as pandemics, terrorist attacks, etc. And make sure you know where the nearest shelters are, as well as the appropriate evacuation routes and plans for specific situations. Step number 2, make a plan. It's very important to make a family emergency plan that can be put into action as soon as disaster strikes. Make sure to include plans for children, seniors, disabled, and don't forget about your pets. Step number 3, build a supply kit. A supply kit is a must when planning for potential disasters. You need to make sure you and your family have the necessary food and supplies to sustain you until the power returns or help arrives. It is also important to keep the kit maintained by keeping your food and water fresh and supplies working properly. It is typically best to store the kit along with any pet supplies in a closet or in the basement. And step number 4, find opportunities to support community preparedness. There are many ways to get involved before disaster strikes. So ask yourself, How can I help? Well, one way is you can volunteer for CERT, Red Cross, Neighborhood Watch, Fire Corps, Civil Air Patrol, and the American Radio Relay League are just a few. So how did National Preparedness Month begin? Well, September 11th, 2001, obviously we all remember what happened then, and the US government took steps to encourage citizens to make their own survival preparations for whatever the case may be. And then in September of 2004, the month of September was chosen because of the 9/11 attacks. It's also the peak of the Atlantic hurricane season, and therefore seemed like an appropriate and good time. The month is sponsored by the Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA. I encourage you to visit www.ready.gov to learn more, get a plan, get your emergency supply list, get the FEMA app, and set up emergency alerts. All of these are available on that website, and you can learn additional information there. So it's a great tool and resource for you to go to on an everyday basis. The Red Cross and National Weather Service say a thunderstorm is considered severe if it produces hail at least 1 inch in diameter or has wind gusts of at least 58 miles per hour. Every thunderstorm produces lightning, which kills more people than tornadoes or hurricanes. Heavy rain from thunderstorms can cause flash flooding, and high winds can damage homes and blow down trees and utility poles, causing widespread power outages. As I mentioned earlier, Safe Electricity has a video series on storm safety. Let's go ahead and watch this short video on types of storms.
The full gamut affects the United States. Hurricanes, typically we see, anywhere from 12 to 15 of those a year, and tornadoes ebb and flow, so that number can range from 30 to 200. At any one time on the entire globe, there's about 2,000 thunderstorms actively occurring. So lightning is a threat all the time. Flooding can happen all year round. Intense cold, winter weather, not just snow, it's just the cold, and that's one of the killers that occur every year too. Heat is the most prevalent one across the United States, and the area that sees the intense heat is expanding. The heat fatalities on average over a 30-year time span, it's about 150 people a year are lost from heat, and then when you go into flooding, it's about 130, and then tornadoes are the next, and that's about 100 to 110. All seasons produce some type of hazardous weather. The difference between a watch and a warning, any kind of watch basically means the ingredients are present for severe weather to develop. Once we see that starting to develop, we have confidence that impacts are going to occur. We'll issue a warning. So those warnings mean take action, protect yourself, take cover. Usually our messaging will tell you what the impacts are going to be and how you need to take shelter. So that warning level means take action. That's the biggest difference we need people to remember.
Let's do a review of the statistics on types of storms and weather given by Edward Scheinman, and that's our chapter 2 of our storm safety series. Hurricanes, there are typically 12 to 15 a year in the US. Tornadoes ebb and flow depending on the year, but range from about 30 to 200. Thunderstorms, at any given time around the entire globe, there are about 2,000 thunderstorms actively occurring. Flooding occurs year-round and leads to about 130 deaths per year. We just had flooding here yesterday, some. Heat-related deaths are very prevalent, and areas in the US that are seeing intense heat are expanding. Heat fatalities are over a 30-year time span is about 150 people a year. And cold weather is not just ice and snow, it's the extreme temperatures. Preparing for a storm and having the appropriate methods of communication set up are very important so that you can stay informed on watches, warnings, power outages, damage, etc. Have a weather alert app installed on your phone so that you can get alerts and follow guidelines. The National Weather Service has mobile.weather.gov, and the Red Cross has an emergency app you can download. We'll talk a little bit more about emergency kits later in the presentation, but now let's go ahead and watch this short video on preparing for a storm.
Whatever the type of disaster it is, there's a common theme here, and that's being prepared. At the Red Cross, we certainly encourage individuals and families to make a kit, have that emergency kit ready, because those disasters are varied, and we want to make sure that you and your family are prepared. So a disaster kit, what is that? Well, you want to make sure you have non-perishable food, drinking water for you and your family, making sure you have battery-powered or a crank-powered weather radio,
flashlights, extra batteries, a manual can opener, a first aid kit, any baby supplies or pet supplies. We don't want to forget our fur babies. But when you're putting this together, you want to make sure and do it ahead of the storm. The store shelves go bare for resources. So you want to put that emergency preparedness kit way in advance of a storm. Don't wait, pull it together today.
Electricity is a commodity. It can come and go. We've seen that with challenges to the grid, with storms. There's a good chance that we could be with an outage without power for a couple days. If a member calls in and says they are on any sort of life-saving device, life protection, medical equipment, it gives you a priority tag in the system if you are on an outage. Now, that being said, you need to make sure you take steps to prepare yourself for that eventuality.
You want to make sure you have that plan with your family beforehand of what will you do? Do you have that place in your house where you and your family are going to go and gather? Stay tuned to whether it's your local weather source. Red Cross does have an emergency app. It's a free app you can download. You can punch in your location there, and you'll actually get real-time updates as they come in from weather authorities. So that way you do know what's coming your way and you can plan accordingly.
Okay, so do you know what the difference is between a watch and a warning? Do your kids and other family members know the difference? A watch means there's a great chance of a thunderstorm or a tornado. The weather has indicated in issuances that the National Weather Service feels it is appropriate and worth warning you about that it could happen. So it's a watch. A warning means a thunderstorm or tornado has been spotted and you should absolutely take shelter. Okay, shifting on to generators. So let's talk a bit about them. Do you know that there are multiple types? Generators are classified by how much power or watts they can produce. The wattage measurement is important because it determines how many devices you can power. According to the Consumer Reports, the typical home requires 5,000 watts to cover the basics. A portable generator, so because these run on gasoline, they are extremely dangerous since they can produce carbon monoxide. Because of that, never run these indoors or in enclosed space, and always keep them at least 20 feet from your home when operating them. Additionally, do not use them in damp or wet conditions. Some newer models feature a built-in CO sensor that triggers an automatic shutoff, and it detects CO buildup. Other advanced models are designed to emit less poisonous fumes. Both of these safety features do help to save lives, and the prices for the portable generators range from $400 to $1,000. The inverter generator is a type of generator that has a more complex engine than its portable cousin. Because of that, inverter generators usually cost more than portable versions. They are much quieter than portable generators since they throttle up and down to match the demand instead of running at a constant full power. They also boast more advanced exhaust systems, which also helps with the noise levels. Inverter generators typically cost $500 to $4,000. And if you pick this kind of generator, you should follow the same safety precautions you would with a portable version. Lastly is a standby generator. This is the most expensive type of generator, and models range from 5,000 to 20,000 watts. Standby generators are also the most convenient since they are permanently mounted and they kick on automatically when the power goes off. They run on propane or natural gas and cost anywhere from $3,000 to $6,000, not including installation. And installing them is definitely not something you can do by yourself. You should have a certified, experienced electrician install them. According to the Consumer Product Safety Commission, one portable generator can produce the same amount of carbon monoxide as hundreds of cars. Let that sink in for a minute. One little generator can produce the same amount of CO as hundreds of cars. That illustrates how gasoline-powered portable generators can create such a risk of CO poisoning that can be deadly in minutes. The U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission released a report in August of 22 on carbon monoxide poisoning deaths associated with portable generators. In its report, fatal accidents associated with non-fire carbon monoxide poisoning from engine-driven generators and other engine-driven tools, the CPSC estimates that about 85 consumers die in the U.S. each year from CO poisoning caused by those gas-powered portable generators. Most generator deaths, about 81%, occur in residential locations. The CPSC's study also found that the top 3 reasons for using a generator among reported fatal incidents were weather-related, power outages, power shutoffs, and attempts to provide power to temporary locations, such as cabins, campers, and trailers. CO is called the invisible killer because it is colorless and odorless. CO poisoning from portable generators can happen so quickly that exposed persons may become unconscious before even recognizing the symptoms of nausea, dizziness, or weakness. Generators can be a lifesaver for people in a power outage who have medical equipment needs that require electricity. They can save your food and they can help keep you warm or cool depending on the time of year. However, they can be very dangerous, even deadly, if not used properly. As an example, in 2021, Hurricane Ida hit as a Category 4 in Louisiana, causing catastrophic flooding and mass destruction. It was reported that there were more deaths from improper generator use and CO poisoning than the hurricane itself. Let's take a minute and watch this little video on storms and outages and generator safety.
When it comes to power outages, they can last for hours, days, weeks, depending on just how big the storm is and how much coverage area has been damaged.
So let's say there's a disaster and you have lost power to your home. Generators, of course, can come in handy, but you want to be very safe with those. For starters, never run a generator inside a building. That could lead to carbon monoxide poisoning, which unfortunately could be fatal.
People might buy a standby generator, power something in their house to do some cooking, run an AC, run some fans. They need to be aware that taking for example, a 240-volt generator, plugging it into your dryer outlet, that will energize the other outlets in your house, but it'll also go through your breaker, back through our meter, back through our transformer, back onto the line that we might be working on. Our number one suggestion is don't backfeed your house. Usually a portable generator will have a couple outlets on it where you can plug in an extension cord. Only use those outlets. Don't backfeed the infrastructure in your house, please, for our sake.
In the United States, a typical power outage lasts about 2 hours. That's not including major events though. So if you take into account other things like tornadoes, earthquakes, hurricanes, or ice storms, it could average days or even weeks.
Especially in the country, just because your neighbor might be on doesn't mean we can turn your power back on. We can't energize the last transformer on a single-phase tap until we have the 3-phase up and running, because the 3-phase feeds the single-phase, which feeds your house. You have to get the things put back together upstream before you can worry about what's downstream.
Program your utilities phone number in your phone, or have that phone number on a common area in your house, on your refrigerator, so that if you do experience a power outage, you have access to that telephone number and can report that immediately. Also, a lot of times your utility provider will have information on their social media sites or on their website. So make sure and go out and like that ahead of time so that you can get restoration updates or more information about when your power may be restored.
Okay, so if you have a generator, plan to get one, or know someone who has one, please follow these steps to use it safely. Never operate a portable generator inside a home, a garage, a basement, a crawl space, shed, or on the porch. Opening doors or windows will not provide enough ventilation to prevent the buildup of lethal levels of CO. Operate portable generators outside only and at least 20 feet away from the house, and direct the generator's exhaust away from the home and any other buildings that someone could enter, while keeping the windows and other openings closed in the exhaust path of the generator. Check that the portable generators have had proper maintenance and read and follow the labels, instructions, and warnings on the generator and in the owner's manual. If it's wet outside, make sure to keep your generator dry by placing it on a tarp and position it under a portable canopy, not a carport. Always make sure to turn off your portable generator and allow it to fully cool down before you would refuel it. And never ever plug a portable generator into a wall outlet as that can cause backfeed. So the video mentioned a little about backfeed. So what is it and whom does it hurt? Well, backfeeding is illegal and very dangerous. Electricity comes into your home from utility lines. Before entering your house, a transformer throttles power to 240 volts. In your home, electricity routes through a circuit breaker and travels to appliances, lighting, and outlets. Simply put, backfeeding involves connecting your generator to an appliance outlet, like a dryer outlet, and allowing electrical power to flow in reverse. As a result, the energy moves backward to the electrical panel and throughout the house. So even if you think it's a harmless shortcut, you might be asking yourself, is backfeeding a generator really illegal? The answer is yes. It's always dangerous and it unbalances electrical loads and strains generators. If you don't shut the main breaker off, power will feed back to the utility line outside your home, potentially shocking a maintenance worker. You would be responsible for the injury or death in these situations and could be criminally prosecuted. So it is definitely worth making sure you are using it correctly. There are transfer switch, and if you read all of those instructions on your manual, then you can follow that. All right, so we talked about generators and how they can produce more carbon monoxide than hundreds of cars. So prepare your inside of your home with safety measures by using carbon monoxide detectors and smoke alarms. Carbon monoxide detectors and smoke alarms, they go hand in hand with using a portable generator. Make sure there is a battery operated or battery backup CO detector on every level of your home and outside sleeping areas. Make sure that smoke alarms are installed on every level and inside each bedroom. Test both CO detectors and smoke alarms monthly to ensure proper working order and replace the batteries when needed. Carbon monoxide occurs when carbon monoxide builds up in your bloodstream. When too much carbon monoxide is in the air, your body replaces the oxygen in your red blood cells with carbon monoxide. This can lead to serious tissue damage or even death. Carbon monoxide is a colorless, odorless, tasteless gas produced by burning gasoline, wood, propane, charcoal, or other fuel. Improperly ventilated appliances and engines, particularly in a tightly sealed or enclosed space, may allow carbon monoxide to accumulate to dangerous levels. If you think you or someone you're with may have carbon monoxide poisoning, get into fresh air immediately and seek emergency medical care. We spoke earlier about an emergency checklist. So here's an example for you. the contents that you should include in your emergency kit and your emergency to-go bag. Bottles of water, non-perishable food, portable phone chargers, flashlights, batteries, can openers. Make sure it's a manual can opener and not an electric one. First aid supplies, including towels and rags, hand sanitizer, prescriptions, pain relievers, warm clothing, blankets. You might want to even include a pillow or two, battery operated radios, extra batteries, toys, books, and games, important documents, money, your baby supplies and pet supplies. Don't forget about those. Check them once or twice a year to make sure that the items haven't expired and that they haven't been removed. And along with the list of general items, some are listed on here, but make sure you're thinking of things that you'll need specific to you and your family. So specific pet food or prescriptions, backup eyeglasses, medical equipment, and so on. You can expand on the recommended items, of course. And a to-go bag is a kit that you have ready for your car in case of an evacuation. So it's going to be similar to the in-home emergency kit, but it should also include things like extra clothing, important paperwork, and cash. It's also very important to know how to keep your kiddos safe and help educate them so they know what to do. Let's watch this video on our kids and storm safety.
If you have kids or kids in your care, we want to teach them about how to be safe after a storm or before a storm, what to be aware of, what to prepare for. One of those being where a downed power line might be on a vehicle or laying near a vehicle. The safest place to be is inside of the vehicle unless it's on fire. Do not get out of your vehicle. Call 911 immediately and report the incident. If you witness a scene like this, we're empathetic. We want to run to help. That's not a safe thing to do. In many cases, when lines come down, they're not arcing and sparking and wiggling all over the place like we see in the movies or on television. They could just be lying there, and there's no way to visually tell whether that line is live. One of the main things we want to talk to kids about is the importance of staying inside after a storm. Oftentimes it's exciting to go out and see what all has occurred outdoors, but there are hidden dangers. If there's a thunderstorm that's approaching and your children are at practice outside, they hear thunder or they see lightning, the best case scenario is to immediately seek shelter. You never want to seek shelter underneath a tree or a pavilion or a shed. If you're outside and you're not able to get indoors to seek shelter, the safest place to go is inside a vehicle with a hard top with the windows up. And you want to wait a minimum of 30 minutes after that last thunder before we ever send our children outside. And the reason for that is because lightning can follow a thunderstorm, so there's a potential for a lightning strike to occur even after the thunder stops. If kids are outside and their kites or their drone gets stuck in an overhead power line, do not try to remove that out of those power lines. You need to call the utility and report that you've got something stuck in the overhead power line. When you're outside kicking the ball, if it happens to accidentally go over the fence at a substation, do not approach that substation. Don't touch the fence, and definitely do not try to get into that area. You need to contact that utility and make them aware, and they will retrieve that for you. Another thing is to respect those green boxes that you see. Those are called pad mount transformers. You never want to climb or play on top of those. They contain electrical equipment that can be extremely dangerous. There are educational resources and videos on safeelectricity.org, as well as games and quizzes that you can utilize with your kids or your loved ones. So make sure to take time to educate them to prevent accidents and save lives.
Okay, so let's summarize the weather-related video tips that we just heard about in that video. One, teach your kids and your teenagers and others for that matter to stay in the car or cab if they have been in an accident involving a downed power line. Wait until the electrical utility crew gives the go-ahead to get out of the vehicle. Many car accidents are weather-related. Don't run towards the accident to help if there's a downed power line. It could be energized. It doesn't have to be arcing and sparking to be live. You need to stay at 50 feet at least away from that vehicle. Stay inside after a storm, especially if there's a power outage. Wait until power is restored before going outside or letting your kids or pets go outside. Be an advocate for your kids' sports practices and games. Speak up to stop play and seek shelter when a thunderstorm is approaching. And do not seek shelter under a tree or a shed. When the thunder roars, go indoors. Wait 30 minutes after the last thunderclap before you resume play. Lightning can follow that thunder, and so you need to wait that 30 minutes and then you can presume it is safe to play. So how and where should you seek shelter during a severe storm or tornado alerts? Well, if you are at home, go into the basement or the inside room without windows on the lowest floor of your home, like a bathroom or a closet or a center hallway. But do not seek shelter in a room with a water heater or a furnace if at all possible. Go to the center of the room since corners tend to attract debris. Cover your head with a blanket if possible. If you're outside, shelter in a solid structure, but not in a shed or an unsubstantial structure that cannot withstand high winds. Do not use an open outdoor structure like a pavilion or a dugout. If that's not available, then go to a hard-topped car. If you don't go anywhere at all, or if you don't have anywhere to go at all, then stay as low to the ground as possible. And never seek shelter under a tree, a tall object like a tree or a utility pole. Lightning is drawn to those tall objects. Make sure that you have a safety plan in place that includes your children, your pets, and other family members. Also, if you have elderly neighbors, it's a great idea to check in with them and make sure they too have a plan. Make note if they have an electrical-based medical equipment, like electric lift chairs or things of that nature. Because if the power goes out, they could get stuck and need help. Let's watch this video to learn more about downed power lines and how you can be safe around them.
A down power line looks exactly like a power line that's still in the air. Electricity is something you can't see or hear or taste or smell. Hollywood has given us some sort of idea that if there's a down power line, it's going to be crackling and smoking and there's going to be flames shooting out of it. That's not how it works. It really is a silent killer. If you see a down power line, you have to assume that it's energized. Leave it alone. We'll take care of it. If there's something across the road, if there's something on your car, don't touch it. We'll clear it off. That's our job.
If you are in a vehicle and a down power line is blocking your path, never try to drive over that or around that power line. You need to call 911 and report your location and that there is a downed line. The safest place to be is inside of the vehicle unless it's on fire, and you never want to try to move that line. If you witness a scene like this, we're empathetic. We want to run to help. That's not a safe thing to do. You need to report that. First responders wait for the utility to come out and cut the power, make sure that that live line is actually dead.
Extremely important to use caution after a storm when it comes to cleanup. Yes, the electrical lines could be strewn about through the trees. They could be on parts of the property that you may not see. For example, if a blizzard has come through your town and there is a significant amount of snowfall there, you may not see that there are power lines buried underneath the snow. And so, just like floodwaters, a high amount of snow can hide some things. And unfortunately, some of those things could be down power lines, which could be very dangerous.
Don't take a chance with electricity. When your fight or flight response kicks in and you think, maybe I shouldn't do this, you probably shouldn't. Call us, call an electrician. Don't take a chance. It's not worth it.
Okay, so moving to after the storm. We just heard that you need to wait until the power is restored before going outside. After a storm, there could be limbs and debris that may hide an electrical hazard. And that, again, could be any storm, not just a thunderstorm, but a snowstorm, an ice storm, a hurricane, any of those. So treat all downed power lines as if they are energized. And if you live in an area where you have power lines and you go out and you know where those power lines are, make sure to look up and see if they're still there, or look around. But just assume everything is energized. Just because power lines are damaged does not mean they are dead. So down power lines, stray wires, and debris in contact with them all have the potential to deliver a fatal shock. Stay away and instruct others to do the same. Never enter a flooded basement if electrical outlets are underwater, because the water could be energized. Do not use water-damaged electronics before properly restoring them. Electric motors and appliances should be cleaned and reconditioned before use. It may be necessary to replace some of your appliances and electronics. Have your water-damaged items inspected and approved by a professional before using them again. If you're driving and encounter a downed power line, stay away and warn others to do the same. Contact your emergency personnel or your utility company to address the downed power line, and wait until utility workers give the go-ahead before exiting that vehicle. If you're using a portable generator, remember there are important safeguards to take that we learned earlier, such as following the manufacturer's instructions, never operating in a confined area, knowing the electrical risks that generators pose, especially in wet conditions, know when and how to refuel, avoiding backfeed, and keeping kids and pets away, and properly shutting down and proper maintenance. So with storm safety and after the storm, a lot of times comes cleanup. I know from our recent storms, there was a lot of cleanup that had to be done in central Illinois, and you may have trees down in your yard. And so here are some helpful tips on chainsaw safety. If you go to grab that chainsaw and go out to trim some trees that have fallen, make sure that you look up, look down, look around for any power lines, and make sure that it is safe to go out. Don't trim trees within 10 feet of an overhead power line or utility pole. Only OSHA certified tree trimmers are actually allowed by law to trim within the 10 feet of an overhead power line. Like I said, look up and look out for power lines, especially before even carrying an extension ladder, and always carry your ladders horizontally. So what are some action steps for you as participants in today's webinar? 1, you can prepare an emergency kit. Do it today, don't wait. Prepare a communication plan. You can get tips from the Red Cross, and the link for that is going to be put in the chat. You can know your evacuation route. Knowing more than one is a great idea. You can visit ready.gov for tips on evacuation, and that link will also be put in the chat for you. You can also visit safeelectricity.org for additional safety information. As you've heard in a few of the videos today, there's a variety of safety resources that you can access on those pages, and about everything, not just storm related, but everything in general related to safety and how to keep you, your families, your children safe. So with that, I would like to thank you, and I hope that you were able to take away some practical tips on how to stay safe before, during, and after storms. Prepare today and share what you learned with your loved ones. Make sure to join in next month for the September Everyday Environment webinar on new tools for healthy waterways. And I believe we have a bit of time left, so thank you again for joining us. And if there are any questions, we can take those now.
Thank you for tuning into CUI's TV. We hope you enjoyed the show. This video can be accessed anytime on youtube.com. In the YouTube search bar, type in UPTV6 and look for their microphone logo. We hope you will join us again next week for more local, engaging content designed